Okay, so good morning everyone and welcome to the Pre-SAB forum for the May 2013 SAB meeting. Quick reminder, today's meeting will be at the State Capitol in room 112 and the meeting will start at 4 p.m. Got a couple presentations today by OPSC and the California Department of Education. So our first slide, looking at our funds available, and keep in mind this is just through April. From March to April, we do have two bond sales that have popped up. April 2013 and March 2013, these are the two at the very top. Our biggest drawdown in March through April was the October 2012 bond sale of about $136 million. And then you see our ending balance down at the lower right-hand corner, which is $645 million. That number is going to change because we do have an item going to the board for priorities and funding with apportionments. So it's three topics I wanted to highlight for you today. The priorities in school apportionment funding, amended regulations for the high performance incentive grants, and then also amended regulations for general site development. So to start off with priorities in school funding apportionments, we've got 230 projects in the amount of $519 million that's going to be presented to the board for their approval. In the item itself, there's a lot of detail, and it breaks down how many new construction projects, how many modernization projects, and so forth. So if you want the detail on that, take a look at the item. Just as a reminder also, from today, you have 90 days basically to submit your 5005 or your fund release authorization. Those wet signatures need to be sent to us or received by us by close of business August 20, 2013, so don't miss that deadline. If you do miss the deadline, your project will be rescinded without further action by the board, and then you will receive a new unfunded approval date of August 20, 2013. Next, we've got high performance incentive grants, and then this is a follow-up as to an item that was presented in March that talked about high performance incentive, what we could do maybe to have it be available to other programs. We were directed by the board to come back with regulations to provide high performance percentage increase and high performance base incentive grant to eligible facility hardship replacement and rehabilitation projects. There's a lot of changes within that particular item. I'm not going to go line by line, but here's kind of a quick summary of the regulations. We add definitions for facility hardship square footage grant and seismic rehabilitation grant. We also accommodate the 2013 California Energy Code. We name the types of projects eligible for HPI grant. We add HPI grant to the list of grants available for rehabilitation projects. And then you'll notice also throughout the item there's a lot of technical corrections, basically renumbering sections and so forth. Are there any questions on that item? And then finally we've got regulations, amended regulations for general site. These regulations are due to expire January 1st, 2014 if there's no board action. We are taking something to the board to recommend at least an extension of 1 year for that particular regulation or more at the board's discretion. We do have some things listed as to what general site includes. So this is not a full list, but there's a few things here. So finished grading, driveways, walkways, and landscapes. So any questions on that item? Okay, so I'd like to turn it over to Thane Gunther that will talk about participation in the priority funding process.
Hello everyone, my name is Thane Gunther and I'm going to be discussing participation in the priority funding process. Just to give a little bit of background on this item, at the October 24th, 2012 State Allocation Board meeting, the board discussed options to promote activity on the list of unfunded approvals, the lack of AB 55 loans. The board approved a motion to develop new regulations allowing school districts to pass one time in the priority funding process, meaning either abstaining from submitting a valid priority funding request or not submitting a Fund Release Authorization Form, SAB 5005, within the 90 days of receiving the priority funding apportionment. This next slide goes over the last two filing rounds and the non-participation for 165 projects. The board asked OPSC to compile a list of projects that had not participated in the last two filing rounds to convert their unfunded approvals to an apportionment. Staff determined that there was 165 projects totaling $413 million. Of these 165 projects, 112 projects had not participated in the last three party funding request filing rounds. 68 of the 68 projects had not participated in the last four party funding request filing rounds, and 16 projects had never participated in any party funding request round. At the January 23, 2013 State Allocation Board meeting, the board approved the proposed regulations. The regulations provided a method of rescinding modernization and new construction applications that had not participated in the priority funding request filing round or had not submitted a 5005 more than once during the 90-day timeline. The regulations were also approved by the Office of Administrative Law on Monday, March 25th, 2013. And just to go over the two different types of occurrences, they're pretty much synonymous with each other. The first is a district does not submit a priority funding request during the funding request period, or the district fails to submit the Form SAB 5005 during the 90-day deadline. This next slide kind of goes over the process of OPSC and the two occurrences that have to take place for your project to be rescinded. I'm going to go over rescissions now. Projects that have not submitted the priority funding request or a valid 5005 after the second occurrence will be removed from the list of unfunded approvals, the lack of AB 55 loans, and or the priority funding apportionment will be rescinded without further board action. A rescinded application will not be placed on the unfunded list, the lack of AB 55 loans, or the applications received beyond authority list. The bonding authority previously allocated for the projects is returned to the respective program and is applied to the next available SFP application. The applicable new construction modernization eligibility that was used for the project will be reinstated to the district's baseline, and the applications are rescinded. If a district would like to have the rescinded application placed on the acknowledged list, the district would need to submit a new application for consideration for placement on the acknowledged list. This next slide kind of goes over the priority funding rounds for the next 2013 year. Like I mentioned earlier, the SFP regulation sections 1859.90 and 90.3 90.2 and 90.3 were approved by the Office of Administrative Law and went into effect on Monday, March 25th, 2013. Like I mentioned, this chart goes over the priority funding rounds for the next 2013 calendar year. Districts previously on the unfunded list, the lack of AB 55 loans, whose projects were not apportioned today at the May 22nd, 2013 State Allocation Board meeting, must participate in the current priority funding round that is going on right now. Districts that do not participate in the current funding request filing round will have one occurrence counted against them. The Office of Public School Construction is happy to announce a new priority funding information web link, and this web link is available on the OPSC homepage. The web link goes over the priority funding procedures as well as other useful information for the priority funding process. And you can see on the slide right here, it's on our main website right above Hot Topics. And if you have any questions about the priority funding process, you can contact myself or my supervisor, Janice Schaefer. And there's...
I have a question.
Sure.
Since there's no board action after in the event of the rescission triggering in, is there an internal, you guys have an internal sort of notification and
We'll be...
procedure worked out in terms of letting the district know
we'll be notifying the district by correspondence, by letter, and probably following up with a phone call as well.
Yeah, I mean, it seems that would be important to make sure there's a kind of structured procedure internally to implement that.
Was there any other questions? Or if not, I'm going to hand it over to CDE with Fred Yeager and Leslie Taylor.
Well, good morning. I have one announcement, and then Leslie will do our presentation. Some of you may have heard that George Shaw is retiring. George has been a field representative with us for 15 years or so, and prior to that spent many years here at OPSC, at probably about 10 or so, where he's a project manager. And prior to that has a high school teacher for a couple of years down in Southern California. So George brought with him a wide range of experience and expertise on environmental, classroom, supervision, a whole host of educational issues that we're really going to miss his expertise on, but he's moving on and moving out. So his last day with us will be June 7th, I believe, or June 6th, whatever that Friday is. So he's available taking calls and emails till then, so give him a ring. And now Leslie Taylor will do an update on some other topics.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Just our department mission, in case you've forgotten. California will provide a world-class education for all students from early childhood to adulthood. The Department of Education serves our state by innovating and collaborating with educators, schools, parents, and community partners. Together as a team, we prepare students to live, work, and thrive in a highly connected world. We have just a few updates today. We were last here in February to report on California's nominees for the Federal Green Ribbon Schools Award Program. And today we're very pleased to report back that all of our nominees were confirmed by the U.S. Department of Ed and are now Green Ribbon schools. That includes 4 schools and 1 school district here in California. The U.S. Department of Ed put together a very comprehensive report of all of the winners nationwide, which is available on their webpage listed here. We do expect year 3 to go forward for Green Ribbon schools, so if you think your school or school district might be a good candidate, now's the time to start thinking about your application for 2014, to start doing some of those benchmarking activities, and to take a look at the winners from this year and see how you might stack up. A couple of other items. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention published an online tool entitled Healthy Eating Design Guidelines for School Architecture. This is a collaborative effort between public health and architecture practitioners that provides practical guidelines and real design solutions to improve the school environment for children's health. It addresses 10 domains of the school food environment, from the commercial kitchen to the teaching kitchen, the school garden, serving dining areas, and more. The website, again, is listed here. Next up is the Safe Routes to School National Conference. Will be held here in Sacramento, August 13th through 15th. That's a biannual conference, so this is your only chance till 2015. And it will be here in Sacramento, a gathering of state, local, regional, and national practitioners, and another great example of cross-sector collaboration, especially with some of the folks from public health. Finally, we have some slides from DTSC on their Targeted Site Investigation program. That is a competitive grant program that DTSC administers on behalf of the U.S. EPA, much like we administer the Green Ribbon Schools on behalf of the U.S. Department of Education. Some highlights of the program. This is for the investigation or remediation of brownfield sites, where DTSC will select and retain the consultant. So no cash is coming to the district as part of this program, but you are seeing a great cost savings because you're not going out and retaining the consultant or paying the DTSC oversight fees yourself. In the past, the TSI projects generally are awarded in the range of $10,000 to $150,000, with the average award around $74,000. This year, about $325,000 is available. The application and application guidelines are currently up on DTSC's webpage under Loans and Grants, and they will be holding a web-based information session on June 4th, where you can ask all of your questions and get all of your answers for your application. They do encourage consultation with the TSI coordinator if you have questions about your project eligibility. The applications are due July 12th, and the decision is made in August. And then field work starts in September and finishes up around April. Here's the eligibility criteria. Your scope of work must be completed within the one-year grant cycle. That's a condition of US EPA and is very firm. Only one application per applicant or per school district will be considered per grant cycle, so you do need to prioritize on your end if you have more than one project that might be a good candidate. And school districts are just one of the eligible applicant categories, although they've been very successful in accessing these funds in the past. In case you're unfamiliar with what a brownfield site is, here's the US EPA definition. Real property, the expansion, redevelopment, or reuse of which may be complicated by the presence or potential presence of a hazardous substance, pollutant, or contaminant, and may include petroleum hydrocarbon releases. This can also include historical agricultural use of a site. If you may have ag chemicals that are persistent in the soils, that would be an example of brownfields, although you might not normally think of an ag site or field as brownfields. Ineligible sites, state-owned properties, most of these don't apply to school districts, but take a look at this list and make sure none of these apply to you. One of the most important parts of the TSI application is the access agreement. If you do not own the site, you must have an access agreement included with your application. In my experience, that's been one of the most one of the biggest stumbling blocks to some school districts is having that access agreement in place. DTSC will want to begin the field work immediately in September. So if you think you might be a candidate, go out and get your access agreement in place right now. The site should also be clear of excess vegetation and other physical barriers. If the site needs to be disked or mowed or otherwise cleaned up so that samples can be taken, please take care of that ahead of time. Examples of what you can do under a TSI: a Phase 1 or Phase 2 environmental assessment, a preliminary endangerment assessment, supplemental investigation, or a specific component of a larger investigation. If you know you have a big cleanup, and I mentioned the average award is about $75,000, scale something that would fit within this grant so that you have a chance to access that money. Finally, the selection process. DTSC will first verify your eligibility for the program. Again, you can consult with them ahead of time before you put the effort into the application to make sure you would be qualified. They'll review your application and select the sites. Some of the criteria for site selection includes redevelopment goals, community concerns and needs. The likelihood of the development is an important one. To be able to demonstrate to DTSC that you're committed to moving this project forward, a timeline for when the project will move forward, so that they have an assurance that the grant will be used and the project will be realized. Finally, after DTSC selects your sites, US EPA does give their final approval before they let you know that you've been awarded the grant. DTSC will meet with you and outline the scope of work. They'll develop the work plan, some of the work your consultants are normally doing, and they'll really be your project manager for the project. So it's a wonderful opportunity to see some great cost savings. Again, June 4th is DTSC's webinar on the TSI program for any questions that you might have, and the link to their application, where you can find the application as well as written guidelines on how to complete it, are available on DTSC's webpage under Loans and Grants. And that's the end of their slides, so if there are any questions, I'd be happy to take those. Otherwise, that concludes our meeting for today. Happy Board Day.